Hello, everybody. Welcome to Women Together. My name is Antoinette. Um, a warm welcome from summer in New York and to wherever each of you may be. Happy July. It is just such a joy. I'm just checking out the chat where, if you're on Zoom, everyone is saying hello and sharing where they're from. And just a warm welcome to everyone, whether you've joined us many, many times before or this is your first time joining a Women Together event. It is just a wonderful joy to have all of us here together. So my name is Antoinette, and I am your host for Women Together. And I'll tell you a little bit about our Women Together experience and what we are coming together for and how. But basically, Eileen Fisher is a clothing designer, and in addition to creating the clothing that we feel so alive and comfortable and confident in, she really wanted to share the practices that helped her to be able to create and to design and to be an entrepreneur. And so she created Women Together, really just knowing that this is going a bit beyond the clothes. So going into a level of depth inside who we are and connecting into what allows us to feel free as human beings. And some of that is what we can do on our own. And a lot of it is seen when we are able to come together. So that has been a big part of our work, is to build space for our community to connect with each other. And over the last few years, we had started doing in-person programming for Eileen to be able to share some of the teachers that she really loved and for us to kind of start to build those practices together. But we also had these in-between moments in this online space where instead of it just being a one-time kind of retreat experience of this thing that happens when you're in Irvington, New York, or wherever we go, that we have the ability to take it into our own lives and really step into ourselves in every moment of every day and kind of wake up with these tiny practices of being in stillness or tuning into the breath. So that's what we initially created these calls for. And a few weeks, months ago now, we saw that this was becoming, that COVID-19 was becoming a global pandemic. And while that's hit many of us at different times, it has really allowed us actually to come together more than ever before. So as much as we are experiencing health crisis and incredible loss, we are also seeing a great deal of us coming together, with over 500 of us registered to connect today. We have about 150 in this Zoom room and more on YouTube. So our goal or our aspiration is to bring us all together and just connect with each other heart to heart, and connect more deeply into ourselves and what's really required of us at this time and the gifts that we have to give. And over the last few months, we've been joined by incredible teachers, some of whom had been with us in person, some of whom joined us maybe for the first time online. But it was such a joy to have all of our teachers together with us. And this month, we have teachers and those of you in the room who had offered to share your practice. So some of you have your own practice, your own teaching methodology that you've been working with for years. And some of it happened to be really aligned with what we have been also wanting to offer. So it's really becoming more of a community connection for all of us to be able to share with one another and share together. So I'm very excited for the next few weeks of offerings on Thursdays at noon. And we're also in the works of creating other content that has been asked for. So if you have requests for content and conversations that you want to have with each other, or ways of coming together that we can help to provide space for, then please let us know, as you already have been doing. And I believe one of the Women Together team members will put something in the chat for us to be able to communicate on. We can also connect with each other at the Women Together conversation space. So you may just be getting the conversation started and in this 1 hour together. So I've been talking for a few minutes and I'd love to just allow us to land using one of our tiny practices. So we have, thank you Ithi for posting it in the chat, and Karen. So as we just settle in to where we are and to the 200 plus of us who are connecting in various ways, we will just land with a moment of stillness. So I have a singing bowl to allow us to just hear the sound of the bell, the sound of the bowl, and to be able to land in where we are now. And this is something that we actually, back when we were in the offices, had in every single conference room. And it's just a moment of pause in between any meeting, or you can take them in between Zoom conferences, or even for me, just marking going in or out of the home. And creating a delineation of space. So sometimes we just need a ritual of now I'm working and now I'm doing something else. And so these are moments for us to just come back to the body, come back to an intention, a sense of self, and come back to the breath. So that will be the invitation. I'll talk us into that and then invite us to just stay with the bell sound for a moment of stillness, and then invite us back with the bell sound again. So if you can find a comfortable seat, or if you're standing, you can get your feet flat on the ground. Just feeling the connection of the feet to the earth, perhaps through the floor. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze. And perhaps just softening the experience of being connected to a screen. And really sense more with the heart, the connection to the 200 plus of us who are here on our computers, in our places and spaces, in different parts of the earth. And just for a moment, just for this brief hour, being connected to each other in this way. So tuning into the breath, following the inhale, just seeing where it goes in the body. And following the exhale. Continue just to follow the breath with your awareness for this moment of stillness. So wherever you are, just noting that we could probably stay there for many, many more minutes and breaths. But what we would like to do is actually move into more tiny practices with Hillary Ray, who is, and Hillary, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, so my apologies if that is not correct, but you can correct me. And Hillary is joining us from a lot of different perspectives, but she has founded a body of work called Tell Me a Story. And really, I find that crafting narrative and being able to tell and retell our own stories really helps us shape our own understandings of who we are. And I think Hillary has really been doing that and helping people understand each other and themselves on a deeper level using this work of Tell Me a Story. And she has done this in a number of different places, including winning a Moth Story Slam and stand-up comedy. So Hillary, it's just such a joy to have you with us as part of the Women Together community, and also to have you sharing with us specifically today your experience of Tell Me a Story and inviting us into these tiny practices as well. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Hillary, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Antoinette. And it's so nice to be here with you all today. I was thinking back to early April, which was the first time I attended one of these Women Together Connect events, and feeling a lack of groundedness and so much uncertainty about everything going on in the world and internally. And then finding this space was really special to me. And I even am connected with someone that I met that first time. We got randomly placed in a breakout room together and have stayed in touch. And just the value of coming together in community is so important. And so important to also share stories in community, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm glad to be here again. I'm glad to be here and share with all of you. So I think of the title of these events, Connect, and that's really at the heart of what storytelling is, right? There's someone sharing a story, and then there's one or many people on the receiving end listening generously, as one of the tiny practices of this event, listening generously to that story. And that's where connection is formed. And I think, yes, it can be on a grand stage of someone getting up at a live storytelling event and giving their story and someone receiving it and not having much of a conversation. But then there's the stories that we use to show up in the world and that we use to communicate who we are and to build connections with each other and invite other people to share stories in return. And I think this can feel really intimidating, and you're welcome to put sort of your communication challenges or story intimidations in the chat. But it can feel intimidating to take up space with our story and to show up as ourselves and trust that there will be a genuine, deep connection. And sometimes there's not, and sometimes it's because of us, sometimes it's because of the other person, sometimes it's because of the circumstances. But ultimately, we want to connect with each other and we want to know more about each other and have those shared experiences that make us who we are together. And that can feel intimidating in that we have to think for ourselves, okay, who am I? What do I do? How do I want to communicate that with other people? So there's all of that kind of internal turmoil that can go along with telling our story. And then there's the external turmoil of what happens when I share my story. What if they don't like me or what I have to say? What if I'm being judged? What if they misinterpret my story and then tell that to somebody else? Or what if I'm not understood? All of those things. And I'm sure, again, you can use the chat to share maybe more of these kind of internal and external turmoils that I call them. And so what happens often in these moments of connection is hiding behind ourselves, right? So we can do that by defaulting to a general conversation about the weather or the world circumstances without including our perspective into it. We can not say anything at all. Deflect is something that can happen. Or we just share a piece of ourselves that doesn't feel fully aligned with who we are, whether that's your job title or something that you used to define yourself by, but maybe doesn't serve you in that present moment, all of those things. So that can kind of happen and show up when we really haven't fully thought out who we are, what do we do, how do we move through the world, and how do we want to share that with other people to ultimately build these deep connections. And so we're going to do an exercise today, and that really grounds us in our own personal narrative and taking ownership over that. And the way that I can bring us to that place where you can all be willing and open to do that is to think of stories being told in 3 specific ways. And I just addressed 2 of the ways, but I'm going to kind of go back and really delineate what those 3 ways are. The first way, stories can be told by someone telling your story for you. And I would say most of the time, that's not an accurate representation of the story. And I think, again, one of the tiny practices of Women Together Connect is practicing I statements, right? And so not speaking on behalf of other people or making assumptions about a collective story, right? But really taking ownership of the I, the experiences that we've had. So that first type of story idea is the stories that other people tell about us. The second story concept are the stories we tell ourselves. And sometimes those stories can be good, but often the story we're telling ourselves is an internal narrative that's a false narrative or a self-limiting belief that's holding us back or making us think about ourselves in a very narrow worldview or narrow lens, or we're holding on to something that's really not serving us. And so I would say those 2 types of stories can potentially cause harm and are the ones that we default to regularly, but the ones that we should maybe avoid. And we're definitely going to avoid for the rest of this session today. So that third type of story, and the one that we're really going to zoom in on, are the stories that you tell other people. So this is from your lens, from your perspective. You are the main character. You are taking full ownership of the experience that you want to share with somebody, and you're sharing it in the way that you want to share it. And so that doesn't mean that you have to necessarily unveil every deep, dark secret about yourself, but you're really finding those small moments from your life that have illuminated into this bigger story of who you are. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. And the good news about focusing on those stories that we feel so honestly and passionately about sharing with other people that are aligned with who we are in this present moment is that it can dissipate the stories that people tell about us and maybe bring more alignment there. And it can also dissipate those internal narratives that are holding us back or making us think we are something that we're not. So by letting go of those first 2 types of stories and really honing in on the third of what do I really want to share with people to build connection and community and really show up as myself, that's where there's magic and power and ownership and connection. So that's what we're going to focus on. And we're going to do a very simple exercise that feels like a big task to accomplish in less than an hour. But really what we're going to do today is find a starting spot. So we're laying a foundation for the stories that we want to tell. And we're doing so by brainstorming all of those life experiences that we have that have made us who we are, to really extract the pieces of ourselves that we want to share with other people. And so the very first exercise I always do to begin this type of brainstorming process is called the 5-word life story. And so that's what we're going to do together today. And then you'll have the opportunity to share these 5-word life stories in breakout rooms after. But if you have a pen or pen and paper handy or a pencil, it can be just a piece of scrap paper. It's good to do this as a writing exercise. If that's not available to you, you want to type on your computer or into your phone or something like that, that's fine, or make a mental note. But the rules and the parameters of the 5-word life story are such. You are going to come up with 5 words that encapsulate your life today, up until this present moment. That's it. There's no, but you have to do it this way. There's no, you have to do it that way. I encourage you to stay away from adjectives, or not stay away from adjectives, but to expand beyond adjectives. What are those active words that make your 5-word life story? Are there places, people, things that could be one or more of those 5 words? They don't need to string together into a full sentence. If that feels right to you, then you can try that. I encourage you to, I'm just gonna give you a very short period of time to do this 5-word life story. You don't have to start yet, but when I say you may begin, you'll have just about 5 minutes. And so I would say also to trust the words that are coming forward quickly and instinctually versus that intellectual idea of finding these perfect 5 words to really encapsulate who you are. Really focus on 5 words that you feel are honest and you feel most passionately about delivering to someone else to build connection. So I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes. I will say go in a few seconds, but I will give you 5 minutes and I will put myself on mute. And what I'd like you to do is land on 5 words. You might have to brain dump a whole bunch of words to then go and circle what words you want to use. Some people have drawn a quick timeline of their life and landed on the 5 words that way. You can draw. It's really give yourself like a moment of creative time and space, and then commit and land on those 5 words. And you don't need to share them in the chat because you'll actually have opportunity to share them in the breakout room, but I'll explain that a little bit after. So it is 12:21 right now. At 12:26, I will unmute again and say time is up for your story. And in the meantime, if you have questions, I can answer them in the chat. So again, you are creating your 5-word life story and you may begin. All right, so hopefully by now you have your 5 words. What I'd also like you to do is somewhere on that page or on that tab open on your computer or somewhere in your head, date this story. So the other beautiful thing about the 5 word life story as building a foundation for further storytelling, for really digging in to find those specific moments from our lives that we do want to share with other people, is that we don't have to make this a stagnant story. So these are the 5 words that you landed on today that encapsulate your life up to this moment today. You're not defined by these 5 words, but you can share more of who you are knowing that you landed on those 5 words today. So date your 5 word life story, and I will give you, you'll get a link at the end of this session where you can actually download a PDF of this exercise with a creative space and with a space to write the 5 words and a place to date it, so that if you want to return to this exercise and do it again tomorrow or wait a week and do it again then. I once did it every day for a month just to see what words I would land on and what stories connected with me each day. So remember to hold on to these 5 words, but that it's a living, breathing document, and these are the 5 words for today. So what's going to happen once I complete sharing this tiny practice with you is that I would love so much that when you get into breakout rooms, that you go around the breakout room and each person share their 5 words, and that's it. So you can say your name, but just deliver your 5 word life story without the context or the extended stories behind the words, and make sure that each person has done that and really see what it's like not only to say those 5 words out loud to a group of people, but then to listen to everybody else's 5 words. And then if time permits, have a conversation about the experience of what it was like to come up with those 5 words, connections that you might have had to someone else's 5 words, what this all means beyond the 5 words, but really use it as this tool for connection, not only with yourself and what you have to share with people, but what other people are sharing with you. And so I hope that the exercise was fun for you. This is, again, a foundation for further brainstorming. It's a way to kind of open up the door to the actual stories that you hold, and then figuring out which ones you want to share and how you share them. And before I let you go and bring this back to Antoinette, I will just deliver my 5 word story that I did with you all just now. And again, not to tell you a specific way to do it, but just model the way that when you go into the breakout room, you can just deliver your 5 words without context at first. So my 5 word life story for today is digging, bungee cords, connected, movement, voice. That's it. So thank you. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. I'm happy to join one of the breakout rooms too and participate that way. Yeah, but I can't wait to hear what stories you came up with.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And for those of us in Zoom, we are going to move into our breakouts and be able to do exactly what Hillary just said. For those of you on YouTube, we put in a prompt if you'd like to share your words with us in the comments, or if you'd like to join in on the Zoom, you're welcome to do that as well. But we'll join into our Zoom rooms now. We'll be in there for 15 minutes in breakouts. And we'll be back here in 15 minutes, and we'll hear some final words from Hillary and from those of us who just went into breakouts. So thank you all on YouTube, and maybe we'll see you in here or in the Women Together conversation space. So enjoy your time together in breakouts. See you soon.